Dumelang, welcome to Face the Nation. My name is Clement Manyatela. It's good to have you with us here on SABC News. On the show tonight, the ANC has finally served former President Jacob Zuma with a notice to appear before a disciplinary hearing for contravening the party's rules 3 weeks before elections. But is this the right move by the ANC? Is the timing right? And what is the former president likely to use this opportunity for next week? The spokesperson of his new party, Nhlamulo Ndlela, joins us tonight. Also on the show, how worried is the EFF about the performance of the MK party in KwaZulu-Natal? How serious of a threat does the EFF view the MK party? The party's leader, Julius Malema, says if the EFF doesn't grow in KwaZulu-Natal, that may undermine the party's overall election performance. So what is the EFF doing to solidify its support on the ground and make serious inroads? Dali Mpofu joins us for that chat. And then later, are trade unions really playing an effective role in advancing workers' interests? Where are they failing and where are they succeeding? I'll be asking that question to COSATU's Mike Shingange, AMCU's Joseph Matunjwa, and SAFTU's Zwelinzi Mavavi. But first, my comment. So, the ANC has finally served former President Jacob Zuma with a notice to appear before its disciplinary hearing for contravening the party's rules. Remember, the former president is technically still a member of the ANC, even though he was suspended from the party in January after he announced his support for the MK party back in December. Zuma is accused of contravening Rule 25 of the Constitution, which bars members from participating in activities of other political parties. In fact, Rule 25, 17, 13 of the ANC Constitution bars members from joining, and I quote, joining or supporting a political party other than an organization in alliance with the ANC in a manner contrary to the aims, objectives, and policies of the ANC, end quote. Now, the former president is also the leader of the MK party and the face of the MK party, which is also a contravention of the ANC's constitution. So he's now expected to appear before the DC on the 7th of May. That's Tuesday next week, less than 3 weeks before the elections. President Cyril Ramaphosa earlier today said Zuma will go and argue his case.
The disciplinary process with regard to former President Jacob Zuma is underway in terms of the ANC's disciplinary processes, and he will go through a disciplinary process and he will go and argue his case there, and it's up to the disciplinary committee to make a finding. It's not up to any one of us to preempt that and pronounce a finding. So the disciplinary committee works independently of all the other functioning or executive structures of the ANC.
But who thought of this in the ANC, that this is a good idea and that this is the right timing? And don't get me wrong, I'm not for a bit suggesting that the ANC shouldn't act against the former president, but surely you've got to consider the optics and the consequences of your approach and the timing, especially now, during this silly season of campaigning. The ANC had every opportunity to start considering action against Zuma in December already, when he made the announcement. Remember that? I mean, he dared the ANC to do something through his statement.
I was a member of the African National Congress, at the same time a member of MK. I've been a member of these two. There's no contradiction. If one wants to do anything, they want as their own business. I joined MK as a soldier and I took an oath. When I joined the ANC, I signed my signature. I did not take an oath.
I mean, where have you ever seen that? Being a member of two political parties. So that's what the former President Jacob Zuma said in December. And what did the ANC do? They ignored him. Some of their leaders said their focus is on elections. They said they will deal with the matter after the elections. They don't want to give him and his new party oxygen. Remember what Fikile Mbalula said?
At the right moment, we will respond to all the accusations President Zuma is making on a daily basis to the ANC and its leadership. From his statement in Soweto, we'll explain to him he has forgotten quickly. We'll explain to him from point A to point 0, including all other matters about the state capture, Zondo, and all of that. We'll remind him that he appointed the State Capture Commission, and he encouraged us all to go to the State Capture Commission.
Even the ANC chairperson, Gwede Mantashe, once said, we'll deal with that matter after elections. And then for some reason, as we get closer to elections, they do the opposite. They spend so much time giving the MK party the same oxygen they said they wouldn't give. And I think the ANC has given the MK party more publicity than anyone else. First, they tried to challenge the registration of the party. They lost that battle. And then they tried to fight over the name MK and who owns the trademark. They lost that. Now they are literally setting the stage for the former president to take on the organization and campaign for the MK party. The MK party spokesperson, whom we will talk to in a few minutes, says Jacob Zuma is going to go and appear before the disciplinary committee and defend himself. And of course, journalists are going to be there to capture the moment at Luthuli House. Do you think Zuma is going to miss the opportunity to bash the ANC and its president outside of its headquarters? Do you think he will miss out on the opportunity to campaign for the MK party outside the headquarters of the ANC? The timing is just wrong. I think the ANC deadlines only now, taking a decision now, this is a decision that should have started in December already. These are the processes that should have started so that it doesn't spend a few weeks before elections fighting a futile battle. So here's what I'm asking you tonight. Do you think this is a smart move by the ANC to call the former president to appear before a disciplinary committee just 3 weeks before we go to the polls? Please send us your WhatsApp voice notes on 078 459 1897. Remember to send us your name and give us your name and your surname as you send your WhatsApp voice notes, and please keep them to about 30 to 40 seconds. Alternatively, you can send us an X on @FaceTheNation SABC. Now, the ANC, as I said, says its decision to charge its former president, Jacob Zuma, has nothing to do with the ANC's election campaign ahead of the upcoming May 2024 polls. Now, a notice was set down by the ANC's National Disciplinary Committee, and it's revealed that Zuma is expected to be held before a hearing at Luthuli House on Tuesday next week on 2 counts of contravening the ANC constitution. So will the Umkhonto weSizwe Party members come out in their support to support the former president Jacob Zuma when he attends that hearing? Let's find out from the MK Party spokesperson Nhlamulo Ndlela, who joins me now via Zoom. Nhlamulo, thank you so much for joining us tonight. So will the former president go and defend himself before this disciplinary committee next week?
Good evening, Clement, and good evening to your viewers. Indeed, President Zuma has confirmed that he'll be there in flesh come 7 May, 10 a.m.
What was his reason to this decision by the ANC to summon him? What was his reaction?
Well, President Zuma, as you know, he's never perturbed by any activities or actions from the ANC. His view, remember, we had to postpone it at one point where President Zuma, they asked that he do it via Zoom, and he didn't feel comfortable with that because also based on the advice that he received from his legal team that he ought to be present. And this is exactly what he's doing. So he's going to attend in person and then face the DC.
Does the former president still insist that he's a member of the ANC and the MK party?
President Zuma stated December 16, 2023, that he will die a member of the ANC. And that's just what it is. And as per your clip, if you look at your clip, I mean, it's very succinct, but it's spot on in a sense that President Zuma states very clearly that, he was a member of the ANC and he joined MK, by swearing an oath to die for Mkhonto weSizwe in saving this country. And President Zuma is effectively doing the same thing. He's voting for MK to save this country, whilst he's a member of the ANC. Nothing wrong with that. The Bill of Rights of this constitution allow him to campaign and vote for whichever political party he wants to vote to. In this case, he won't vote for the ANC of Cyril Ramaphosa because it's no longer the ANC that is known. It's bought.
But he can't have his cake and eat it. Where has he ever seen anyone who is a leader of one party and a member of another and then use one party to decampaign the other party?
Well, let's not forget that in 2016, come the elections of in Metsimahulu, where the SACP, remember, went against the ANC in those elections. Now, what we want to ask is a very simple question. Were those members disciplined? No, they were not disciplined. And yet they contested against the ANC in elections. So why is it that when President Zuma now wants to campaign and vote for Mkhonto weSizwe, it's a problem? There's no parity in terms of how the ANC applies its laws or its rules. So, this is clearly politicking and targeting President Zuma. Let them start with what they ought to have dealt with then in 2016.
The difference, though, is that the SACP didn't go around decampaigning the ANC. They didn't tell people necessarily not to vote for the African National Congress or say bad things about the African National Congress. They just took a decision to also campaign and contest elections as an alternative party.
No, but at the end of the day, I mean, they are still, in effect, members and associated with the ANC. That's ill-discipline. But when it comes to President Zuma, they want to refer to it as ill-discipline. No, I mean, here's the reality. President Zuma, in this case, has stated very clearly that he will not vote for Cyril Ramaphosa's ANC. It is bought. So the CR17 campaign was bought and funded by White Monopoly Capital. And it's controlled. So what happens? That's why they've not implemented any of their policies.
What happens if
they nationalized the Reserve Bank? No.
What happens if Cyril Ramaphosa is no longer the president of the ANC? Does the former president then abandon the MK and go back to rejoin now the ANC and vote for it?
The ANC is bought. And if I'm to respond to that, I mean, that would be a response in hypothetical terms. I can't respond to something in hypothetical terms. The reality is that the situation as it stands is that we have a president in the form of Cyril Ramaphosa whose campaign was paid for. And President Zuma doesn't want to be associated with a White Monopoly Capital-owned ANC of Cyril Ramaphosa. Fact.
But is he willing to move back to the ANC if Cyril Ramaphosa is out of the ANC? What happens to the MK party?
The ANC is no longer the ANC. That's just the reality, Clement.
So, let me ask this. As the MK party, if one of your leaders or members went and joined another party and started decampaigning the MK party while insisting to be a member of the MK party, would you be okay with that? Because that's effectively what the former president is doing.
No, we'd have to, I mean, our constitution would have to take precedence here and give us guidance in terms of how we go about that. And naturally, we would not, because that's another element that's been creeping in, because there are certain elements of the ANC, where members of Mkhonto weSizwe purport themselves and masquerade as members of Mkhonto weSizwe. Meanwhile, they're ANC members. Yeah. A good example is this Lennox individual who went and first, got involved himself in fraudulent signature activities, which he himself confirms that, were fraudulent in his affidavit. So, that's just the reality that we're faced with.
So if you can accept it, then
we'll deal with you accordingly.
If you can accept it as the MK party and you would deal accordingly with any member who does that, why are we questioning the ANC's decision now to go after the former president?
No, we're not questioning their decision. How can we question their decision?
Well, you're saying it was inconsistent.
What the ANC does. It's their decision.
You said it's being inconsistent.
We're focused on campaigning right now. We're focused on our campaign to get a two-third majority, and that's what's most important for us right now. And it's sad that the ANC is so desperate that they want to be bringing case after case, losing cases continuously, that now because they've lost in other court processes, they want to bring us to their kangaroo court to get some sort of cheap points by trying to maybe, if it means dismiss President Zuma or not, it's up to them. But the reality is, we're here, we're campaigning, and we want to focus on a two-third majority.
Are you going to be
focusing on giving us platforms?
Are you going to go to Luthuli House next week as members of the MK party to support the former president? I have to say, the spokesperson of the ANC was on full view on the SABC tonight, and her warning was that the MK party must not provoke the ANC because the ANC is charging an individual and not a group of people. So they seem to take issue with your plans to come and march in support of the former president next week.
That's her view. If they did not want anything of this nature, which they knew very well, because in actual fact, them calling President Zuma to come through a DC is provoking us in of itself. Wouldn't you say so? Because they know wherever President Zuma goes, we will go. We'll be with him. He's our leader. We need to protect him. There's been all sorts of things that have been happening around President Zuma, and we feel that we're not comfortable with him just being there alone. So therefore, we must be there. So she's the last person to come and tell us when they're the ones that actually gave us this platform and the ones that actually bring this process before elections.
All right. Nhlamulo Ndlela, thank you so much for making time for us tonight. He's the spokesperson for the MK party. And of course, they are insisting that they will be going to Luthuli House next week in support of the former President Jacob Zuma. That question we are asking you tonight. Do you think this is the smart move by the ANC to call the former President Jacob Zuma to appear before a disciplinary committee just 3 weeks before we go to the polls? Here is what some of you have had to say on Twitter. Olile says, good evening to all of you. The ANC needs to close this chapter no matter what. It is said and what it has to end it so that it is able to move forward. It is very clear that he is and was not there for the people of South Africa, but for himself. That's a tweet there from Kolile Nzoyi. Sawani says it's 6 and 9, just the same. The damage is already done. Don't cry over spilled milk. Dominic says, good evening to you and the viewers. I think this is the first round of coalition negotiation, especially in KwaZulu-Natal province. Dual membership is always allowed. Hence, we have people who belong to the SACP and the ANC openly and COPE and ANC secretly. Of course, the difference there is that you can be part of the ANC and also be part of the SACP because these are parties in alliance. What is against the ANC constitution is to participate and be part of another organization that is not in alliance with the African National Congress. After the break, we're going to speak to Dali Mpofu about the EFF and what it's doing to make inroads in KwaZulu-Natal in the face of this quote-unquote new threat in the MK party. Stay with us here on Face the Nation. Welcome back. The leadership of the Economic Freedom Fighters has advised KwaZulu-Natal residents to prepare for the likelihood of a coalition government after general elections on May 29th. The EFF has been actively campaigning throughout the province, focusing on the northern regions known as IFP strongholds. Now, as the elections approach, the party plans to ramp up its campaign efforts province-wide. Now, speaking on behalf of the EFF is Advocate Dali Mpofu, who was the first national chairperson of the party. Are you still a member of the Central Command Committee?
No, I'm not, but when they say first national chairperson, that's a title I'll have forever.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us. Now, the MK party, it really seems to be a threat in KwaZulu-Natal, not only for the EFF, but the ANC, the IFP, and other parties as well. So it looks like this new kid on the block is giving a lot of you headaches.
No, not really, Clement. You must remember that for us, this is very familiar territory. Not long ago, 2 elections ago, we were the so-called new kids on the block. So we know how this works. We know very much. We had already, at that stage, obviously studied very intensely what one might call the COPE phenomenon, because that was the first real breakaway party that emerged. So we're very comfortable. So when this development happened, we knew what to expect. And that is why, for example, people were not clear as to why, when we had our rally in KZN, well, firstly, why we had our rally in KZN, but secondly, why we insisted that we only want people from KZN. So no buses, no nothing from any other place, because we wanted to test the strength in KZN, and we were happy with what we found, because, as you know, that rally was a huge success. And I was joking with our deputy president that the first rally we ever had in KZN, I think it was in 2014 or 15, it was at Curry's Fountain. There were like a couple of 100 people there. You couldn't even call it a rally. From that to actually filling up Moses Mabhida Stadium, that's huge. Remember, we had about 350,000 votes last year. And you see, the issue of percentages is also deceptive. I was reading a book analyzing the 2014 elections. Think of it like this, Clement. One of the reasons why, one of the outcomes of the advent of the MK party, for example, is that the voting population in KZN has been energized. It is clearly what the Americans would call the battleground state, KZN. So there's a lot of activity. So it's possible that we'll get more than the 350,000 votes that we got last time. And yet the percentage might be lower. Why? Because the total will be enlarged as a result of the activation. So there's a lot, elections are a scientific exercise. So it's not like you just panic at the first thing that you hear. You really have to check.
So what are you doing then as the EFF to solidify your support on the ground and make those inroads? Because you're dealing here with an environment that's always had 2 traditional parties, the EFF and the ANC, but the MK party is now shaking the ground as well. What are you doing as the economic freedom fighters so that you're not losing ground?
No, well, that's a good question. Firstly, you've seen our Secretary General literally crisscrossing that province. Before that, our Deputy President created a very solid base. It was when you were still there that we had the rally at Moses Mabhida. And remember, when you send to a province somebody like a Secretary General, he's not just some deployee. He's a very senior leader of the organization. So he's not just going there and doing door-to-door. He's giving us feedback of very deep analysis of what he's finding in each area. He's gone right through the length and breadth of that province, right from the north, Mkanyakude, yesterday he was in Mtubatuba, to right to the south at Ugu, and obviously the eThekwini region, which is important. We have strong presence in Amajuba. We have very strong presence in Herigwala region, Ilembe, all those crucial areas there. And our Secretary General's feedback is that our structures are solid, that of the 5,000 voting districts there, we have solid structures. Remember, of the 44 municipalities in KZN, we are represented in 42. So, our organization, we are happy with the organizational work there. Of course, the new developments within the political sphere create good excitement, which is not bad, by the way. And that might also energize our own base, because they now know that it's, especially in this phase is called the last push. So a whole lot of things are going to happen in the next 2-3 weeks. And we are very confident, and we really want to thank the people of KwaZulu-Natal for the support they've shown. I mean, these rallies that we've had in the last 10-20 days are just amazing in terms of the turnout.
So from the feedback you are getting from the Secretary General on the ground, What is he saying about this emergence of the MK party? Is it a serious threat for the economic freedom fighters from what he's seeing on the ground?
No, it's not. Of course, he has acknowledged that the MK party is a new phenomenon. The IFP, remember, KZN is very complex because there is a strong EFF, there's a dying ANC. I mean, I saw some projection which said the ANC is at 12%. I mean, that shocked even me. I mean, I wish it's true. But so there's a dying ANC, there's a vibrant EFF, an IFP that has regrouped and decided to focus on that one province, unlike us, who are a national, who have a national footprint. Don't forget the DA. Because in those provinces where the so-called minorities are present in large numbers, the DA has always a guaranteed vote. They don't even read any manifesto. They just wake up and go and vote for the DA. So it's a very dynamic province. And as I say, it's a battlegrounds state. As the SG's analysis, which was made today, was that no single party is going to emerge there. Obviously, if that is true, then what we must fight for as the EFF is to be the number one. And we say at West, we should be the number two.
Okay. Floyd Shivambu was replaced by the Secretary General, Marshall Dlamini.
Correct.
Why was that? What is it that he wasn't doing right?
No, it's not about doing something right or wrong. Floyd Shivambu is one of our most capable organizers and analysts of, by the way, we should congratulate him for, he just collected another master's yesterday from London School of Economics. But when we do deployments, we look for, it's a dynamic situation, as I said, because we're not a one province party. So, for example, the Deputy President had to move to the Eastern Cape. And because the Eastern Cape is crucial for various other reasons, strategic reasons, which I cannot reveal here. And I was there yesterday because he asked me to go and take care of some of the work there. And I was amazed by the work that he has done there. And remember that the Eastern Cape, Limpopo, and those kinds of provinces, Gauteng and KZN, are the four big provinces. And of course the Western Cape, but that has different dynamics. So the fact that somebody's moved from KZN to the Eastern Cape does not mean you are doing anything wrong. In fact, they just swapped seats. So if SG Marshall was moved from the Eastern Cape to KZN, so you could ask, what did he do wrong in the Eastern Cape? He didn't do anything wrong. But when we do our analysis, we always make sure that the leadership. Remember, these campaigns are not really led by the leadership. They are there to coordinate and so on. We have structures right from the regions to the voting district, not just the branches, literally the voting district, where, like that little school that you go to, we have a structure around that. So that's really what is important. All
right, let's talk about coalitions now. Have you ruled the ANC out as a possible coalition partner after elections?
No. No, we're not mad like the DA, which says before the elections, we will not have a coalition with so-and-so. It doesn't work like that. Politics are not dictated by political leaders. They're dictated by the people of South Africa. If the people of South Africa want coalitions, they will have coalitions. If the people of South Africa want one party to run all the provinces, they will have that, and so on. It's so the DA's narrow-minded mentality, where they think that the politics are decided by Steenhuisen and Helen Zille, doesn't work. So we haven't ruled out working with anyone, including the DA, by the way. So we can't do that. The numbers will determine, come the 30th or the 31st of May, when the results are out, then all of this will not be speculation. We'll know the concrete numbers, and we will, as we normally do, make those decisions.
What would be your conditions? Because I remember in 2016, which was the first time when we were met with the reality of coalitions, as the EFF, you demanded that the ANC gets rid of the former President Jacob Zuma before you can even have conversations about working together. Are you still standing by that kind of expectation? Should we get to the point that nobody gets an outright majority where you say President Cyril Ramaphosa is not someone we want to work with. So before we can have a conversation, he must step out.
No, not necessarily. You see, what we do is we have, I've been fortunate enough to have been part of this discussion since the 2016 coalition talks, at 2019 and so on. And our approach is almost similar. I mean, I literally, when we were going for 2019, I had to go around and look for my notebook of what our demands were in 2016, because our demands are the same. Land, jobs, stop load shedding is our battle cry for this particular election. So those issues will obviously become prominent. Then the issues of the leadership of the country obviously become prominent. But we're not obsessed with leadership. So I'll give you an example. In 2016, for example, people thought we were going to say, no, we want to be the deputy mayor, what. We said, no, we don't want any position, any. We just want these policy positions. And the policy positions were the insourcing of workers, which we managed to achieve via Mashaba in Johannesburg, as an example. So those are the things that drive us. Our conditions will remain the same. The question of land, free education, they are mainly drawn from our 7 cardinal pillars. Abolition of the tender system, which is the dreaded tender system, which is the source of our corrupt state, industrialization, and those kinds of issues. And then we have what we call the softer issues. The Cape Town airport issue, the DSTEM must go, and those kinds of things, and then we can start talking around.
But surely should you get into a coalition with the ANC at national level, you don't just want to occupy ministerial positions. Would you be perhaps having conversations about, say, Julius Malema occupying the position of deputy president?
Why deputy? Why not president?
Well, because you wouldn't have gotten the majority of the votes. The ANC would have. In this context.
It doesn't work like that. Well, why is Mr. Kwamanda the mayor of Johannesburg?
And they're one party. It's a fair point.
Exactly. So it doesn't work like that. These things are, people just throw these things away. There is no reason why Julius Malema should not be the president. But all of this will be determined by the numbers. So we can't go there and say, look, let's say if we are not a kingmaker, we just, let's say there's a government of national unity or whatever, but we're just there out of somebody's favor. We're not in a position to make any demands, quite frankly. But if we are able to, power is really that. What the voters really give us is the power. And us as the leadership, we must find a way to leverage that power. Whether we get 1%, 20%, 100%, we must be able to leverage that power maximally for the benefit of our people, not for the benefit of ministers and bodyguards and what have you. What gains can we get for the people of South Africa, for them to get water, to get sanitation, to get proper electricity, to get their land back, and then we're fine.
Okay. Advocate, I have to let you go. But before I do, on Friday, you're going to be at the Constitutional Court next week to argue on behalf of the former President Jacob Zuma around that matter with the IEC on whether or not Section 47 1E is applicable to him. What are your prospects? I know I'm pushing it here because you're an advocate that is representing him and you don't normally talk on these matters, but how confident are you ahead of next week Friday?
Nice try, Clement. I'm here to speak for the EFF. If you want to invite me to speak in my professional capacity, I'll have to seek permission from the Bar Council. Okay. Yeah, but it's something that we look forward to. I think it was enjoyable to do the last one. Okay. So here we go again.
I'll push my chances again next time. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Thanks.
That's Advocate Dali Mpofu, who was speaking to us tonight on behalf of the ANC. After the break, are trade unions playing an effective role in advancing workers' rights? AMCU, SAFTU, and of course another organization, COSATU, are going to be joining us for that chat. Stay with us. Welcome back. Trade unions across the country commemorated International Workers' Day yesterday with thousands of members gathering across the country. Workers' Day is observed annually to celebrate workers' rights and acknowledge the role trade unions play. But what is the role that trade unions have played recently in the representation of worker interests? Facing the nation tonight is Mike Shingange, who is COSATU's first Deputy President, Zwelinzima Vavi, SAFTU's General Secretary, and Joseph Matunjwa, who is the President for AMCU. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And I'll start with you, Mr. Shingange. What role have you played as unions, especially recently, given how workers are under siege? They are overworked, they are over-indebted, there are retrenchments left, right, center. What role have you played as unions to be there for the workers and represent them?
Good evening, Clement, and the viewers, and also good evening to Comrade Vavi and Comrade Matunjwa. Firstly, let me just say that the Workers' Day is not celebrated only because there are rights of workers. Workers' Day is commemorated because it recognizes the struggles of the workers. Because by the time when the Workers' Day started, there were no rights at all. That's the reason why we have this day today. Even here in South Africa, we started fighting and demanding that this day must be recognized as a holiday in the country long before we attained democracy. But maybe to your question about the role that workers and unions will have played, I'm sure with the changing economic situation across the globe and here in the country specifically, the reorientation, the restructuring of the workplaces, the privatization that is taking place, if there were no trade unions at all, I'm sure the workers would be at the worse position as they are now. So we continue to advocate for the rights of workers. We continue to lobby and fight, sometimes in the boardroom, sometimes in the street, for the better working conditions of the workers, including the issues of the unemployment rate that is spiraling uncontrollably high. So all that which currently workers are enjoying as labor rights, which were not there before we attained democracy, did not come before because someone was a bit happy and gave us those rights, are the result of the struggle of workers, the lobbyings, the marches, the negotiations, and all sorts of kind of struggles that workers have done. So all the labor laws, as you know them, you can name them, Labor Relations Act, you can name them basic conditions of employment, Employment Equity Act, you can name the leaves that are there, the National Minimum Wage, all of those are in place today because of the long, protracted struggle of workers.
Mr. Vavi, for workers' rights to be effectively advanced, you need the labor movement to be united. Would you make an argument that it is united today?
No, it's not. The fact that we have 4 federations in South Africa, and in fact, they are counted to be 27 registered federations. And at times, you have up to 300 registered unions. That's fragmentization. It means that the voice of the workers has been weakened by disunity. And that's why we are beginning to lose important battles against the employers and against the government in our negotiations with them. So the unity remains one of the central challenges. And early this year, we were in a labor school, the 4 federations that are in Network. One of the most important decisions we took there was to take steps to ensure that we create a confederation that is going to coordinate the activities of all of the federations, but more importantly, that is going to ensure that there is solidarity between union to union across all of the usual divisions of the unions. And what may be disappointing is that we now in May, and we have not taken practical steps to ensure that we move in that direction. We also agreed that we will fight the austerity measures of government together. It's a disappointment that we didn't do so when we had an opportunity to express that resolution of the 4 federations. So we still have to work harder to ensure that unity is not something we speak about only around May Day, but it's something that we push and push for every step of the way throughout the year.
Mr. Matunja, what is it going to take to see that kind of unity so that we see the workers being prioritized?
Good evening to you and to your viewers and the comrades, studios, SAFTU and COSATU. I think for the unity of the workers, the union formation has to be independent to represent the cause of the working class. At this current status that we are in South Africa, where we've got a government that is so much embedded in neoliberalism, neoliberal economic policies, I don't think we'll be able to change anything. So until such time, we take a stance to say we as workers, we are a class, because any political party, once it takes the administration, whether the background is from the revolutionary background, but once it takes the administration, is becoming pro-capitalist, is what we see in South Africa. So we cannot be in the position where we can change while we are sleeping in bed with the very same government. It cannot work. So our government is pure liberal. It promotes free market. It undermines all the gains that we fought so much, even before 1994, by one, the labor laws that we have is no longer responsive to the challenges that we are facing. Like, for instance, we are only country in the world that has got Section 189, where the employer, if it does not make super profit, the workers must be retrenched. So all those kind of laws or labor laws, it has to be amended. AMCU has made several clarion calls. One, Mine Health and Safety Act. Workers are killed day by day. I speak to you right now, at Kusasaletu, the worker is trapped from early hours in the morning up to this time. No COO can be charged criminally, even though those accidents are reputable accidents. And huge money that's supposed to save jobs to be given to the employee. One CO, the famous Froneman, is earning 300 million per annum. They are retrenching currently 4,000 workers Impala, Platinum, 4,000 workers Anglo-American, Platinum. Siriti in Witbank, Malahleni is retrenching over 1,000 workers. So all those is because of these laws that we have. Section 189, it gives them a right. So until such time, we take a stand as a class. Hence, AMCU has came with a Labour Party to say all unions come together, all federations come together. Let's have our voice in the parliament where we can influence the legislations.
Okay, Mr. Shingange, do you think that you have compromised yourselves as COSATU through your attachment to the African National Congress? Because some people have made that argument that the deterioration of the labor movement or the influence of the labor movement is partly because of the attachment to political parties. Yes, through that attachment, you've been able to push for things like the national minimum wage. You've been able to push for workers' rights, strong labor rights that protect workers. But you also complain as COSATU about the so-called neoliberal policies of the ANC.
Yes, Clement, maybe because we are here to talk the state of trade unions and the unity of workers, that first aside the fact that COSATU is an independent trade union formation. It's not affiliated, at least in the country, to any political party. It has got tactical and strategic alliances with a number of MDM structures, including political parties and civic organizations. But it's an independent trade union movement. And therefore, that cannot be a hindrance to the worker unit in the country. And secondly, we don't think we have compromised ourselves. We have made this point over and over again. We didn't join or form a tactical and strategic alliance for the broader benefit of the South African struggle only after 1994 when the ANC was in government. We were together in the trenches. We understood the direction where this country must go. Yes, we accept that there are some crippling of neoliberal tendencies and policies and individuals inside our movement, including in government. But that's what part of why we're in the alliance for, to contest the policy directions inside the movement, not to shout from outside. That's why we, from time to time, provide solutions and alternatives to otherwise policies that will have been very detrimental to the workers. I doubt if even Mr. Machunda himself can claim to be independent politically. He has just announced a political party a few weeks ago, which is just confirmed now here. Whether that must call him not to be independent, I don't know. We do think that the unity of workers in the country, here and anywhere else, must not hinge on the political affiliation of individual unions or individual leaders. Clement, if the problems of the country was because of COSATU is in alliance with the SACP, SANCO, and ANC, why is the rest of the unions that are not in alliance with the ANC are not solving the problem of the country? Because we are just but one federation that is in the alliance with an ANC, which we came together before it was a ruling party. But none of the so-called independent federations and trade unions are able to resolve the problems of the country. Clearly, the problem of the country is not the alliance. And until and unless the workers accept that they need to unite beyond whether or not you are affiliated to this political party or not, and resolve the issues of the class, as Comrade Matunja said, then we're going to continue to be very far away in terms of the unity.
Mr. Vavi, do you agree with that? You were there, you remember when NUMSA was in the cold because it was trying to push for COSATU to walk away from this ANC-led alliance. So to Mike Shingange's point, do you really think it's possible to be an effective labor union and influence a governing party when you're not aligned to them?
I hate to disagree with that fellow, Mike, because I have huge respect for him. But I do disagree with him totally, the point that he's making. And having been in that alliance myself, having been the General Secretary of COSATU for 14 years, and have been spent all of my adult life in that movement, and I know that the independence of COSATU is a fallacy. And here's an example. At this moment, the biggest complaint of COSATU for the past 29 years is the deepening of neoliberalism, excuse me, privatization, removal of the role of the state, removal of the state from the active economy, and imposition of all manner of measures that are favoring the ruling class, such as the fiscal and monetary policies of the country that have created a situation where the rich has become much richer and poor becomes much more poor. And we can go on about privatization, the collapsing state-owned enterprises, and the fact that post office workers are more likely to lose their jobs unless the Department of Labor succeeds to submit a fresh application to TERS so that they can agree to at least keep those workers for the next 12 months whilst we try to find a solution. All of those things tell me that, in fact, COSATU is in a very abusive relationship with the ANC. It complains and marches throughout the year, as it should do as a union, but comes now the period of elections, it tells workers that they must continue to vote for the for worsening crisis of unemployment. They must continue to vote for the worsening crisis of poverty amongst workers, the casualization, the rise of precarity, the fact that South Africa has become the most unequal society in the world, the rampant levels of corruption and crime in society. Effectively, COSATU is now asking workers to endorse that for another 5 years, and that can't be independence. It can't be any strategic move except that COSATU unfortunately agreed to attach its own reputation to the strings of what they should admit is a neoliberal capitalist party at this moment.
Let me bring in Mr. Matunjwa now. Mr. Shingange mentions the party that you have launched as AMCU. What was the reasoning behind that, and how does that, in the broader picture, help advance workers' rights?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Even Comrade Mike and Comrade Vavi and other trade unions affiliated to COSATU, we invited them. They can attest to that. We said, Comrade, as a class, we don't have a voice in the parliament. There is no left voice. As a class, we don't have any representation in the parliament. The parliament is represented by the parties that embrace neoliberalism. So therefore, let's come together, let's shape this vehicle and see to it that can accommodate the unemployed, the employed, every trade union in South Africa. Let's see and try to make this as our vehicle to have an independent voice that represent a class, a working class. Because why? We've seen in the previous wage agreement when we negotiate, we cannot keep on taking workers on strike every wage negotiations. We cannot have every weekend we are burying workers killed by these mines because of the Mine Health and Safety Act that is no longer responsive. We cannot allow the government or the white monopoly capital with their tendencies of neoliberalism mothballing the shaft because they don't get a super profit in the expense of the dignity of the black workers in South Africa. So that cannot happen. So we need to be the one who are influencing right in the parliament. So that are the basis, because we are, on the ground, it's where we see the difficulties when we engage with these employers. We see also the element of politicians coming closer when we negotiate, influencing other trade unions to pull out. You remember the strike we had with the NUM and AMCU, where we had a joint effort to try to gain more for workers at Sibanye Stillwater, which it took us 3 months, that strike. So the NUM was under severe pressure from the same politician who was saying break away from AMCU for Neil Froneman to deal with AMCU. So the unity of the workers is very important, but under the circumstances, some unions, they cannot exercise because of the political influence that they have. So we coming with the Labour Party because we see exactly we are no longer responsive to the issues. The current system has undermined the bargaining. Look at
it. Joseph Matunjwa. Yes, Joseph Matunjwa, Mike Shingange, and Zolinzi Mavabi. Thank you so much for joining us on Face the Nation tonight. Let's wrap up with some of the voice notes that you've sent us tonight. The question that we asked you earlier was whether you think this decision by the ANC to summon Jacob Zuma before a disciplinary hearing less than a month before elections is a smart move. Now, some of you have spoken to us on X. Some of you have sent us your WhatsApp voice notes on whether you think the ANC made the right move. The question we've been asking is whether even the former President Jacob Zuma will use this opportunity to campaign for the MK party. This is where we leave it for tonight on Face the Nation. We'll be back on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Thanks for watching. Cheers.